Hello everyone, my name's Jessica. The creator of this feed, Jennifer, is a very dear friend of mine of over 25 years, I believe. She has asked me to contribute to her podcast, which I'm happy to do so. It's taken me a month or two or even 3 to get the guts up to go ahead and do this. I'm not a very good public speaker in any way, so bear with me. I'll do the best I can. Jennifer and I have been friends, like I said, for 25 plus years. She's inspired me in more ways that I can even express over the years, which is just another example of her genuine heart. For those of you who know or have listened to any of Jennifer's content, you're aware that she does not appreciate being called strong. I understand her reasoning, but I also want to expand on other reasons that friends and family may call her strong. Jennifer has a tendency to love with the strength of her whole heart. She listens with the strength of her whole mind. She hugs with the strength of her whole body. And she cares with the strength of her entire soul. I believe these are also the reasons that people call her strong. However, that being said, when you are strong like that, and when you do show up for people, and when you are a good friend and a good family member, a sister, daughter, wife, people tend to forget that you have needs yourself. And I think that Jennifer may have created this page to remind us all that we all need a little support, no matter how strong we are. And I admire her for that. So I am more than happy to contribute to the page and or the content. And if someone can obtain something from my stories that help them just a little bit, then it's well worth it. I know that there's a disclaimer at the beginning. I'm going to go ahead and say one of my own. I am not a psychiatrist, a therapist, a counselor. These are just opinions and stories of personal growth, trials, tribulations, successes, meant to be discussed amongst friends. If this topic is not for you, or it doesn't fit your situation, if it doesn't resonate with you, that is A-okay. This is my story, and if it can touch just one person, or make one person feel empowered, heard, validated, understood, or not so alone in this world, then sharing my personal challenges and vulnerabilities is well worth it. That being said, I thought I would talk about the struggles, challenges, and benefits of living as an adult woman with ADHD. When I was young, ADHD was considered a thrown around diagnosis. People didn't take it seriously, and there's a big stigmatism attached to it. My own mother believed and verbalized that she felt it was a made-up diagnosis for as an excuse for kids who were unruly or had bad behavior, or an excuse for parents who didn't properly discipline their children. Because of the negative connotations that were widespread when I was a kid, when I was diagnosed with ADHD as an adult in my early 30s, I blew that diagnosis right off. I was almost offended when my doctor suggested it. And then I was seeing a therapist at the time. I saw a therapist on and off for a good portion of 10 years, just to work through some things, personal things. And when I mentioned it to her in a kind of a joking way, she said, "Yeah, that tracks." And I was a little blown away by that. Still blew it off. Didn't take it seriously. It wasn't until I noticed signs in my own children. I have 5 children. My husband came with 3, and I have 2. And my 2 children have ADHD. And significant ADHD in the family. History, I was adopted. My biological father I met in my mid-30s after that diagnosis had been given to me. And I thought, wow, maybe this does track, because he had severe ADHD. His attention span was very short. And he just hadn't learned any of the tools, I think, to navigate life with that diagnosis. So I started kind of to come around back in 2014-ish to the idea that this does track for me too. It wasn't until just recently, I'd say maybe the last year, that I started following some individuals on Instagram who have ADHD and were talking about it openly. And then from there, I followed a few more, and I started to notice that, wow, these people do very similar things to me. I do that. I started to not feel so alone, not feel so crazy, like there was something wrong with me. And then I started to really just kind of accept the diagnosis and realize that, yep, I'm it's in me. I'm not going to shake that. The things that bothered me the most about ADHD is I noticed that I would dominate conversations, or I'd want to share my experiences to try and relate to the person who was talking. It wasn't that I wasn't listening to them or wasn't hearing them, but I can chatter. I'm a chatterbox, and I can fill the air with all sorts of chatter. But I felt like I was stealing the conversation from people, friends and family, as they were talking, which I thought was unfair. So I started to develop tools and was cognizant of those tools, so that I could utilize them. In conversations, one of the things that I would do is be sure to look people in the eye as they were talking. And I think we all have an inner monologue. We talk to ourselves in our own head. And I would verbalize to myself in my head, shut up and listen. Do not interrupt. Pay attention. And I would have to tell myself that while other people were talking. After a while, it became a habitual. I started looking people in the eye as they spoke because I wanted them to feel heard. I stopped interjecting with my own stories and would wait for them to pause or wait for them to finish their story before I would tell mine. And then I would preface that with, this story, I understand, it doesn't make me understand what you're going through, but it's something that I experienced similar, that I can kind of relate to your story. And then that way they felt I wasn't trying to one-up them. Because that was never my intent. I don't want to one-up anybody. But I think when you dominate a conversation, it feels like you're trying to one-up or take away from. And that's just not who I am. I like to think that I'm a very caring person. So that was one of the biggest struggles for me as an adult with ADHD is learning some tips and tricks to get through things. And I'm hoping to share some of those today, and just kind of go over some of the positives, some of the negatives, some of the things the hurdles you have to jump over. Medication, that's not something that I chose to do. I've tried it, and boy, let me tell you, you go from here to here. You can really narrow in your thinking and hyper-focus. So there is some value to that, of course, but I just felt different, and I felt that, my heart would kind of race a little bit. I felt like I could run a marathon and then would try. And the reality is you can't, not if you're not conditioned for it. So that was kind of fun. But I also felt like you could potentially get addicted to that kind of medication and feel like you needed it to survive. And I chose not to. So I titrated off of that and have just been working on a day-to-day with my own tools that I've developed over the years. So some of the things that I go through is motivation. I want to be motivated. And many things get me geared up, and I'll look through Pinterest, say, for projects for the house or organizing rooms in the house. I'll buy all the bins to do it. And I'll gear up for it, but then when it comes to time to actually get her done, the motivation just isn't there. The other thing that I find myself doing is having what I call, I don't know if there's an actual term for it, but I call it ADHD paralysis. And that is when I have so many things to do that I can't choose one. and my brain almost just like statics out. And next thing you know, I'm sitting on the couch watching movies all day because I'm just overwhelmed. And when my brain becomes overwhelmed, I shut down a little bit, trying to bust through that. Now that's one of my 2025 goals, is to kind of bust through that and get up and pick one thing and just go with that. It's the same thing with dinner. If we haven't pulled dinner out the night before, or thawed meat the night before, or have an idea the night before of what we're going to eat the following day, I will have a brain paralysis with trying to figure out what the heck am I going to make, and we'll end up ordering out or just snacking, because I cannot for the life of me hone in on what I want to do. Same with picking a restaurant to eat at. Don't ask me, I'm not the one. I will run through every single restaurant in my head. I will drive the roads in my mind near our house to see if any of the restaurants look good, in my mind. It's ridiculous. So that ADHD paralysis, it's a real thing, and busting through that's my 2025 goal, is finding a way to bust through that and just pick. Organization. I love to be organized. I love a clean and clear and clutter-free home. We're not dirty. Our home is not dirty by any means. It's very clean. But I do clutter up. I'll next to my bedstand, or my nightstand next to the bed, cluttered. My table, cluttered. My countertop, kind of cluttered. Then I get frustrated, and next thing you know, I'm just throwing things away to declutter. Because anytime there's clutter, my brain is cluttered. And messy home, messy brain. Can't handle it. So about every 6 months I purge. My husband is terrified of the purge, because what that means is anything that he's collected, he's a bit of a collector of things. Everything's fair game. I will get so frustrated and so fed up that I'll just run through the house with a garbage can and everything's out the door. Several bags are going to Goodwill. Out. I don't have the patience for a garage sale, or to organize that, or to keep it in my home. I almost feel weighed down by it. So I have this urge to just dump it, get rid of it. Good or bad. Good and bad comes from that, because a year later I'll be looking for something and it is long gone, at my own doing. Printer's going to calibrate. Sorry about that. I want organization, but I hate being the one to organize. So it's a bit of a catch-22. I force myself to do it on occasion, but there's still a good portion of my house that I need to get through and organize, crafts and things of that nature. What else? Projects. I love projects. I love house projects. I love changing the house all the time. Different colors, different style schemes, different artwork, and just changing things up, changing the flooring, changing the furniture. I love planning those things, but again, with the motivation, I have a lack of motivation when it comes to actually doing it. And I also will have self-doubt and talk myself out of doing things. I love antiques, and I've picked up some furniture that needs to be refinished. And I research it and I look into it, and I know that I probably can do it, but that self-doubt just eats me up inside to the point that I almost psych myself out of doing any projects. So there's like that imposter syndrome feeling of, what do I think? I'm now a furniture person that can refurnish things, and so a lot of self-doubt that you got to kind of bust through, and the best way to do it is just do one. Find a cheap piece of furniture, find a cheap hobby or something that you want to try, and just try it. Watch videos, follow step by step. That's the other thing. I cannot envision anything. My husband gets so frustrated with me. This man, he can build a house in his brain. He can draw the schematics. He can do all of that in his head. I can't do any of it. He tries to explain something to me. He has to draw it on paper. I can't. My brain does not work that way. And coming to the realization that my brain does not work the same as other people's, that we all have different thought processes and way that we see things and vision things. he's been impatient with me over time. But as I learn about how my brain works, I talk to him about it, and he's becoming more patient with me. Impulsivity, very impulsive. Holy smokes, so impulsive. I think that's just one of the traits of most people with ADHD is we're very impulsive. The way that I get through that, and I'm still working on it, financially, I'm not great with money. I love to shop. Amazon has been a pitfall for me. Very dangerous, because that instant gratification, that instant dopamine hit, I'm always hunting for that dopamine hit. Shopping seems to do that for me. And if I find something that I like, if I get a pair of shoes that I like, then I want them in every color. If I decide that I like camping now, then I want all the camping stuff. I want everything set up to the extreme, and then I'll find oftentimes I get bored with it. And now I have all this crap that I have no use for. And then I guilt myself about the waste of money, and oh my gosh, I can't believe I bought all this. So that's something I'm currently working on as well. I've got 2025 is going to be a new year for me, but that's something I'm working on pretty significantly now, is honing in those shopping urges and getting a grasp on that, and trying to find another way to get dopamine hits. Maybe the gym, we'll see. I'd say the gym, I say that, but I hate working out. I hate it. Oh God, I hate it. They say anything you do for 3 weeks, after 3 weeks, it's a habit. I call BS. Sorry, not a habit. Hate it. Always have, always will. But, as you get older, you realize you gotta get some exercise. So, another goal, lots of goals. The impulsivity, one thing that I have frequently done is I will blurt something out. Oh, my husband can help with that. Oh, I can help with that. Oh, I can do that. And next thing you know, I'm weighing myself down with other people's issues, or helping other people with things when we have our own things that we got to take care of. So I love to help other people, but I will impulsively offer help often, and then I don't regret it necessarily. It just takes away from the time that we have to do our own projects and our own things. So often what I will do is, if I think of something, I'm able to now track in the moment that, wow, this is impulsive. This is an impulsive thing that I want to say or do, and I'll sleep on it. If I give myself one night of sleep, oftentimes the next day I will have a different thought process on the matter. So that's one of my tools, is do not make a big decision. All the big decisions I wait on now. I sleep on them, and oftentimes the next day I feel differently about it. So give yourself a day. Give yourself a day to think on it. Give yourself a week if you need it, however long you need. But one of the tools for me is don't make a decision in the moment, because I always decide something in the moment and then regret it later. Not every time. And helping people, oh gosh, no, I never regret that. I want to help other people. If I can help, I'm in. So yeah, on the impulsivity, as I was explaining before, if it's something that I like, if I have a coffee and I like the flavoring in the coffee, I will go buy that flavoring, and then I'll think, oh, well, vanilla might be good with that. Hazelnut might be good with that. Next thing you know, I've got flavors all over my counter, and 6 months later, I'm tossing them all out. So I have been really reeling back on that, and this past year, been working on, like I said, honing that impulsivity in. As oversharing, I overshare a lot, and that inner monologue is helpful for me because I can stop myself in the moment. I have a tendency to fill silence with chatter, and that's dangerous because there are things, believe it or not, that I don't want to share, and sometimes I'll blurt something out, and then I spend the next however many days beating myself up for oversharing it and thinking, my God, those people must think I'm ridiculous. Those people must think I'm a fool, or, they must have some opinion about me. Reality is they probably don't. And I've never lost friendships from oversharing, but I have had good friends tell me, why would you say that to everyone, So oversharing is something that comes along with ADHD, and feeling the need to fill the air the silent air with sound. You don't need to fill the air with sound. You can stay quiet too. I worked for an attorney once, and she and I became friends, and we would walk after work, and she would ask me a question, and it would be a very intimate, personal question that generally I wouldn't answer, but then she'd stay quiet and just stare at me. And I would feel the need to answer. And then I would just keep elaborating. And next thing you know, I've told her something overly personal that I would have never shared in a million years. And it took me a minute, but I realized that was a tactic. That was a tactic of hers that she used as a lawyer to get people to say more. So I took that and developed that into a tool of my own. I use that against other people sometimes if I want to have them elaborate. It works great for children to just ask a question and then stare. My kids always thought that I knew the answer already when I did that. So then they would confess. And I think I learned that from that attorney. However, on that note, she got me. She got me quite a few times with that tactic. So know that is something that we struggle with as people with ADHD. Not everyone. Everyone's different, obviously. I struggle with it. If somebody asks me something and stares at me and stays silent, I struggle with not answering. But you don't have to answer. You can stay silent too, or you can just say, I don't want to answer. Let's see. If I have an appointment, I have to have reminders. I will forget that appointment. The other thing, I will plan on that appointment all day long and think, okay, at 2:00 today, I've got to go. I've got to be out of here by 2. I've got to be out of here by 2. And at 1:30, I will dive into something. And then at 1:59, I'm screaming at myself as I'm screaming out the door to make it to the appointment that I missed because, at the last hour, I decided to start a project. Ridiculous. So I set up reminders on my phone, on my calendar on my phone, on my calendar at work. They chime me 2 days before, 1 day before, 2 hours before, and 30 minutes before, because I will screw up and I will miss that appointment. So I will hyperfixate on it for the entire day, and then at the last minute miss it. Ridiculous. Happens to me every time, almost every time. Getting better. But reminder app, get yourself a reminder app, tag things in your calendar, and remind yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that. We all need a little reminder, so nothing wrong with that. Living in the moment. I have a hard time living in the moment. I'm often somewhere else. My brain shifts all the time. I'm constantly shifting around. Thinking about the future, thinking about the past, thinking about something somebody said a month ago that irritated me, thinking about the person that cut me off in the morning, whatever. I'm all over the place. My brain is everywhere. It's hard to keep me engaged, and I get really frustrated if I'm not engaged in a conversation, or if it's a boring story. I have a really hard time staying in the moment. And I'll find myself, if I'm talking to a slow talker, or someone who tells long stories and doesn't get to the point of it, I've already figured out the story within the first 30 seconds most of the time. So I'll start to fill in the blanks. If they're talking too slow, next thing I know, I'm finishing the sentences for them. And you did this? Yep. And you did that? Yep. And then this happened? Yep. So it's not that I don't want to talk to a person, it's that my brain is rolling so quickly that I'm already through this conversation. And that can get kind of frustrating. Same with driving, getting stuck behind a slow driver, or someone slow in the fast lane. Woo, that'll get me. And 4-way stops, don't even get me started. Don't even get me started. I'm a kind of calm person. Not really. I get fired up, but four-way stop, when people don't know the law and how you're supposed to go, that really frustrates the hell out of me. Get your driving book out, get your driving manual out, and figure it out. And then obviously the slow 20 mile an hour and the 45. Wow. Yeah, some things come out of my mouth that I'm not proud of, for sure. But nobody hears me, so no harm, no foul. Tinted the windows so people can't hear me screaming at myself in my car. Yeah, so that's a tool. Tint your windows. Impulsive arguments, to the point of the argument. I feel like I lose the point in my arguments because a lot of times I'll wait and then something will trigger the argument, and something maybe even not even related will trigger an argument. I'll just be irritated, and then an argument triggers, and I'll have a point. I'll have the initial thing that upset me, but I spiral so out of control with all the things that I've thought of in the last, all the things you bring up. It always just spirals out. And then there's that fear of, I didn't get my point across. My point was lost in all of that. And then I feel silly. And then I feel guilty. And I'm apologizing for spiraling out of control with my argument. And my husband doesn't argue with me. He just listens. He's the yin to my yang. He's my opposite. Where I am a spitfire, he is very calm. So when I say argument, no, it's just me spiraling out and him listening to me spiral out. And then I feel ridiculous afterwards, and I'm apologizing to him. And then I'm saying, wait a minute, I'm apologizing for the way I relayed this, but the point's still there. I need you to understand and acknowledge the point, which he does. But in any other argument or debate of any sort, I always feel like I lose the point and that I don't relay it properly. So that's, a bit of a challenge. Knowing the storyline of movies, I 5 minutes in generally know what's going to happen. Not ruining it for everybody else in the room. That's a tool that I've learned. I used to shout out what was going to happen next, and people would just look at me like, are you serious? Thanks for ruining it. So I don't do that anymore. I've got it in my head, and I keep it there. So if you're in a movie and you've got the plot within the first 5 minutes, you know how the whole movie's going to play out, shh, don't ruin it for everybody else. That is a pretty standard for people with ADHD. We are hyper vigilant, hyper focused. We pick up on cues of things and tones and undertones from across a room. We can figure that out. I can tell in about the first 5 minutes of a conversation with you if I'm going to like you or not. I can tell if you're genuine or not. I can tell if you're a liar or not. And it's just those undertones. It's just those cues that you are highly tuned into. And that really has served me over time. I know when to keep people at arm's length and not trust them. And I don't always listen to the red flag right away because I could be wrong. I have been wrong. So I think it's also very important to give the person that you think may not be a genuine person, give them a minute. Give them a minute to prove that to you. But I'm never shocked when they do. I expect it to come. I can spot a lie pretty quickly. Mainly facial expressions, tone in the voice, mannerisms. I'm in tune to all of that. I'm paying attention to all of that at all times. I'm an empath. If you feel it, I feel it. If you hurt, I hurt. If you're in pain, I'm in pain. I want to take that from you all. I want to resolve your problems for you. And it's taken me a long time to realize I can't fix everybody's problems. I got to worry about my own. I got to worry about my family, my kids, my friends. But I sure would like to. And I spent many years trying to fix other people's problems for them and ignoring my own. Having children was a great distraction for me because I didn't have to focus within. And since my kids are all grown and out of the house now, I'm finding myself focusing within. And I first really was not happy with what I was seeing. I felt very almost crazy sometimes, in my own head, trying to figure things out. And why do I do this? And why do I do that? So really, I would implore you to get onto Instagram or other sites, platforms, and follow people who have ADHD. You're going to find we're not alone. Holy smokes, we do so many things similar. Laundry. My husband does the laundry. And I think it's just because he got sick of me taking an entire day to do one load. I can get it into the washer, and I feel very proud of getting it in there. And I think to myself, I'll be back in an hour. And I hear the buzzer, but I'm now involved in whatever I'm doing, so I'm going to get it in 5 minutes. 5 minutes turns into 5 hours, and then I go down, I switch it into the dryer, and then about 10 o'clock at night, I remember it's in the dryer, and by that time I got to refresh it, so I'll start the dryer again and forget it again. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'll get it because I have to focus and pay attention to it. But folding it, that's not happening. Not that day. Not at all. So the tool that I use for that is I will lay my clothes out flat while they're warm. And then at least they're not wrinkling. And then I get to them the next day or 2 days or 3 days later. I'll hang them up and fold them down and put them away. So my husband stole that from me because he got frustrated, I think, with my constant battle with laundry. And so he generally does the laundry. Every now and then I'll kick in and do a load just so I don't lose my edge and know how to use our washer and dryer. But it's pretty funny. He can blow through 6 loads in a day. I can get maybe through 1, and it's not getting folded. So forget that. Let's see. I've made some notes for myself because that's the other thing. I got to keep track of what I'm talking about, or I'll lose my train of thought. So stubbornness, yeah, I'm extremely stubborn. If you tell me I can't do something, I'll do it. And that imposter syndrome will go by the wayside because somebody said I couldn't do it. My husband has tried to say, well, you can't do that. But I know I know what he's onto, so I won't do it then. But if somebody else outside of my home says, you can't do that, watch me. I will research the hell out of it. I will go down the rabbit hole and figure out exactly how to do it. I'll be in a bakery baking stuff, making sourdough bread, canning things, doing all the things, that somebody said that I couldn't do or had any sort of doubt in me. I will go do it. I'll figure a way to do it. Love. I love very hard. I also I want to say that I forgive quickly, but when somebody scars me, I hold on to that as a lesson for the future. The downside of that is I carried that into my relationship with my husband. And it took me many, many years to relax because I was always waiting for that second shoe to drop. Because somebody burned me once, I may get burned again, and I need to be guarded. Not the case. Boy, don't carry that in with your next relationship. You have to really work on that sense of unfairness. I have fairness is huge for me. Legality is huge for me. It's why I went into the field of law. A sense of fairness. If somebody is unfair or does something hurtful, it blows my mind. It's an extreme sense of fairness, even utter shock when someone's rude, cruel, or unfair. I can't get used to that. Still to this day, I can't get used to that. If it's something that I would never, ever do to another person, I'm always so shocked when they do it to me. And it hurts, and I hold on to that. So that is something I don't think I'll ever get over. I like being fair. I live a fair life. I'm fair to my friends. I'm fair to my family. I'm fair to strangers. I will be fair to you until you give me a reason not to. And when you give me a reason not to, I will maybe give it an attempt or two, but I'm not going to waste too much time. If you are an unfair or an ungenuine, disingenuous person, you're out. At 46 years old, I've learned that I don't have time to screw around with relationships of any sort that are toxic or aren't mutually beneficial. When I'm your friend, I'm your friend. If you need me, I am there 100%. And I love to be there. And I love to be that friend that you know will show up. But if you don't appreciate that, you're out. You're out. My motto now is to just surround myself with people of like mind, not even like mind. I have friends who are Democrats, friends who are Republican, friends who have totally different viewpoints than me, but they are there for me. If I were to call them, they'd be there in a heartbeat. And those are the people that I want to surround myself with. So I used to try my hardest because I don't like to fail. So I would stick into a relationship full force and put my all into it. And what I would find is at the end of that relationship, when it ended, I'd be bleeding. I'd be bleeding out and the other person didn't have a drop of blood on them. You know, they never gave anything. I was doing all the giving. They were doing all the taking. I try not to stay in those relationships anymore. Unfortunately, I just had one end about a year. That was about a year and a half long. I cared about the person. We had a disagreement. And I tried to talk to her about it. There was a couple of disagreements, and I tried to talk to her about it, and there was defensiveness, and I didn't feel like I could be open and honest. And then it just wasn't, when you're no longer getting pleasure out of the time that you spend together and it seems to be more toxic, it's time to end it. It's just time to end it for both of you, for both of your sakes. You're not good for each other. So going forward, I'm not going to do that anymore. Those red flags, I get them instantly. I see them instantly. I've ignored them in the past. I don't ignore them anymore. A red flag flies and I'm out. So that year and a half relationship that I ended, in the past I would have held on to that relationship for 10 years and tried and bled, trying to make it work. Nope, you'll get time out of me, don't get me wrong. I give anyone and everyone the benefit of the doubt, and I do believe that people should get a fair shake, and I feel that people should get a second chance. I'm not opposed to that at all, but I don't give it as much time anymore. I've lost so much time on toxic relationships in the past that I just don't have the time. At 46, with children, with friends, true friends, I don't have time to put into a toxic relationship, and I suggest you do the same. My toxic trait was holding on to relationships that didn't need to be held on to. So I'm over that. Let's see. I think the thing that I love about having ADHD is the attention to detail, is the ability to go down that rabbit hole. You have to control that because you can go down a million rabbit holes if you're not careful, and next thing you know, time's gone. But I will dive into something that I believe in, and I will put the time in, and I will pay attention to it, and that attention to detail and the ability to read people really quickly, I really enjoy that. It's fun. It's actually pretty fun. So I think the thing that I want to get across to people is give yourself some grace. We're all just big kids here, We're all feeling insecure at times. We're all feeling that imposter syndrome. You are good enough. You're exactly where you need to be. You're exactly the person you need to be. Can you be better? Sure, we all can be better, Keep growing, but give yourself some grace. Don't beat yourself up. Don't feel guilty about things, unless you've done something horrible, obviously. But don't beat yourself up for oversharing or giving a person a second or third chance. Don't beat yourself up for it. You did it. Feel good about that. And remember, we're all just big kids trying to get through this world. It's our first time here. If you believe in reincarnation, maybe it's not our first time here, but it's probably the first one you remember. So give yourself some grace. And do a little research on the ADHD diagnosis if you have it. If you've been diagnosed with it, accept yourself and really enjoy it. love your brain the way it is. Don't try and change it necessarily, but learn some tools to capture the abilities that you have. It's not a disability. It is an ability. It is an ability. So get disability out of your brain. It's not a disability. Harness it. Harness it. And enjoy it. And that's the best advice I can give for now. Maybe we can broach the subject. If you have any questions, obviously ask. I'm happy to elaborate. But for now, I hope everyone's having a wonderful week, and I hope you all enjoy the weekend. And thanks for listening.